Hello everybody, Tobin here, and I'll be continuing Palinurus? I'll still probably never get that name correct. Alright, let's continue where we left off. We've just had an impact of meteors, and let's see what the situation is. Suddenly, a flash of white light. I'm here. My deepest apologies for taking so long. A soft charm, given the presentious circumstances, signaled to return of the intelligent navigator. I twist my head in its direction as it scrambled for the controls. It seemed to hesitate for a moment, nervous, almost wincing. She looked tired. So, pardon my common man's language, but what the hell's going on? The stabilizing system has to be recalibrated. The emergency thrusters remain seated. Will be undergoing a little turbulence until before the AI could provide me with an estimated the cockpit launch forward. Ark! I nearly spat that, feeling the rocking of the cockpit in the pit of my stomach. The eyes of the navigator reflected a glow of flickering and countless holographic screens. It swiped frankly throughout the diagrams, semantics and forms. Just one moment. It seemed to yell in its response. I opened up my drawer to respond, but in this state it was pointless to yell at it. The cockpit still felt like it was swirling. The semantics, the sheets upon sheets of code, only made scramble my mind ache even more. I'm not feeling so hot. It'll be fine. Please remain seated. Hey, there's no need to I am not shouting. The piercing cry made me jump a good 2 feet, or at least it would have, had I not been strapped in. I am not shouting. There was something different about the program. Why was it yelling at me now? Even when we were in the midst of the debris storm, it was calm, orderly, pretentious. Sure, it was firm and tense, but in a professional manner. Looking at it now, scrambled to make key adjustments, frantic movements. It was almost certainly panicking. Normal from a human looking into its face. For invertible death, it was an artificial intelligence. Was different. The AI had remained calm in all circumstances. They even had tinted limitations coded chips inside of them meant to suppress sentiment and emotional behavior. Maybe this was just some sort of scenario the personal navigators had never been programmed for. Bing! Another charm rang out. Obnoxious red turned to green. Did she pull it off? I felt the G-forces briefly spinning my body into the seat eerily away until finally I found I could move comfortably. The stars beyond stopped their fluttering spinning. It seemed our course was finally. Stabilizing systems has returned to practical efficiency. The AI next to me beamed proudly. The worst seemed to have passed. I groaningly wavered, raised my right hand to massage my shoulder. It was aching all over. As I checked my neck, I found myself face to face with the program at the helm. There was something different in her eyes now. I couldn't quite tell what it was. It was absent, almost emotional. This girl was staring at me. Oh? So we're good now? I wasn't quite sure what her eyes seemed to be asking. It was still a machine, wasn't it? A construct. It felt all kinds of weird. Being stared at so closely like that. The AI continued to gaze at me for a moment and then nodded. Yes, the stabilizing system is functioning at this point, as well as the artificial gravity, but I'm still unable to repilot our course. I am not quite sure how far we splintered away. I think we might be even in uncharted space. ... But regardless, as soon as the stabilizing system returns to full stream, we should be able to regain situational awareness and head off on our way. The AI explained all this concertedly as it continued to study me closely. I raised my eyebrows in response. Is something wrong? Something on my face? I was just concerned if you... How do you mean, feel after all that? It seems like you were put through considerable stress. I can't tell if she's blushing. Well, she looked stern and all. I paused to gaze back at her expression. The concern on her voice was almost palpable. After all that, I wasn't expecting to be the subject of doubting and worrying of some machine. Perhaps she's been possessed by something. Someone trapped in the machine. But I guess that would be in the programming of what essentially was a space stewardess. Now I thought about it. I smirked at any case. That was one hell of an understatement on her part. Me? I feel like I just spent 10 minutes in a blender. Probably wasn't that long. It might be about 5 minutes at most, maybe. Or even 2. Huh? The program tilted its head. Apparently it was unable to comprehend smiles. Never mind. I'm fine. Just a little sore is all. ... She stared at me for a few seconds longer, studying me more. In time it smiled, surprisingly satisfied. What was it thinking? Stretching? What? Stretching is a good way to reveal aches and pains. We aren't anticipating any more turbulence, so if you like, undo your belts and... No, I'm good. I think I'll rest a bit. Walk around a bit? Or that's perfectly fine. Excuse me, I have to make some calibrations. I wasn't quite sure where that came from. The AI seemed cheery now, eager to please. Perhaps it got damaged in the storm, and her emotions are now slowly coming back. But will this be the end of this guy? Because it will become emotional. What? I'm trying to make the sentience. There was, as well as something new in her eyes, glinter of something. Yeah, she's damaged and her emotions are coming. Seemed like a different person. Different from the machine I spoke to when I boarded, I meant. Though I might have seen a spark of something like in her eyes. Oh boy. Wait, she? Her? It was still a machine, for God's sake. Why they designed them like this, I never know. I shook my head forcefully as if I could force out the virtual thoughts. I think they want you to love them or something. As awkward silence fell over the cockpit as the air continued to fiddle with the display interfaces. I got to look at the expression on her face. Huh? Did they program it? So the corner of her mouth would twitch? She was fidgeting with herself? It was a little painful to watch. I I spoke up, but stopped mid-sentence. Shoot! What was its name? I hadn't complimented compared it to its memory at all. She turned to me with those curious blue eyes. Yes, sir? But Bud passed? That was it, I thought. An unchanged expression on her face meant I hit the mark. At least my brain was still in one piece. I just wanted to say, thanks for, saving me and all that. Oh? Oh. I only did what any other personal navigator would have done. It was my pleasure to... No, really, it was really incredible. You knew exactly what had to be done, and I wasn't much of a help. Burpess stared back at me silently for a moment that seemed to stretch to eternity. I scratched the back of my neck, thinking what to follow up with. I'd be dead if you hadn't handled things the way you did, so really? Thank you. ... It was my pleasure. I'm just happy you're safe. There was that look on her face again. She stared at me oftenly, surprisingly studying me, watching how I moved, how I spoke, how I breathed. Okay. But it was more than that. She looked straight into me, up front, honest. I took a look around the cockpit. Now the situation had calmed down a bit. I recognized how would be a good time to get our bearings together, at least when we were unharmed. Budapest seemed in top shape, and I was a little shaken, but not stirred. Nevertheless, we were knocked off course and separated from the rest of the ship. Nothing but a control center left over, a head without a body. So, what do we do now? I'm looking into the matter right now. She frowned visibly while she worked. That wasn't good. According to the diagnosis I'm in front of me, while the cockpit should have been equipped with a operation thrust system, it's probably not working. It seems to a stray asteroid has smashed into the hull, causing critical damage to that particular component. So what you're saying is we're stuck in a lifeboard without a paddle, right? She turned to me quizzically for a few moments before nodding slowly. That is correct, I think. Wait, why does it say navigation offline? She's the auto navigator. Though, if I am understanding that figure of speech in the correct, that is correct. Thankfully, a amount of life support subsystems are close to optimal working condition. Artificial gravity generation, oxygen pump, sinister repeller. So there was a pre-predictor installed in the cockpit. Oh my gosh, I won't be able to say that. Good. I started to worry how I'd be feeding. Oh, replicator. Oh my gosh. Worry about how I'd be feeding myself in here. Artificial maintenance. Cold chemical paste called foo. Wasn't exactly something out of a dream, but at least I wasn't gonna starve. What about water, buddy? And our solar planes are in working order as well. I'm confident we won't be running out of power for any length of our journey. Well, hey, that sounds great, aside from the thrusters, that is. ... right? Bypass went silent. Her eyes locked on the schematics. diagrams hovering above her. There was one other thing. She looked apprehensive. I wasn't sure what else could be wrong. Everything seemed to be right and confident. I glanced around to be safe. I could clearly tell that we were drifting through space, stars, sleeping silently in the void. There was only inclusive we were moving at all. I think I lost a part of me. A part of her? What did she mean by that? That is to say, well, this vessel. I am connected to it, and it's like my body, you could say. Yeah, I think I can understand that much. Losing the thrusters is bad, but at least we... No, not the thrusters, I mean, she clenched her hands into balls, the expression of dread coming across her face. My sentience, limited logic, main chip to be specific, was destroyed during our escape from the debris storm, and trying to process what to think about it. ... I heard about the limitation chips before. There were a few document cases I remember. The Saturday man in the news system found his AI secretary had been acting oddly. In the late hours of the night, they would get lost in a long conversation with each other. Their work output fluctuated, and it was weeks until the corporation head got wind of it. They got their research wing and shifted through the AI's code, the lines of numbers and strangled up functions. They were unable to find the root cause of the sudden change, but they processed a chip to suppress all that sort of behavior. This internal coordination, they were called sentience limitation codes. They were meant to keep the AI obedient and subservient. Usually, they always did their jobs, but if hers was shattered, then... So, how are you feeling? Shock. She looked all over me, astonished that I asked something like that. I asked how you're feeling. It seems pretty okay to me, right? ... Her eyes drifted to the semantics. From her eyes, I could tell that she knew something was wrong with her, and hung silent in the air. I was about ready to drop the issue. I feel hazy, nervous, anxious. The sensation inside me. I don't know what it is. Sensation? You know, I will call it here. I hope to see you in the next video, and let's see how far her sentience will take off. See you in the next video.